Since now they are in the power, it was also through the negotiation with the Americans. Judge or the Mufti has beaten the perpetrators to confess for their crime. If you look into the hijab has been brutally enforced. For 3 days, they shut down the internet connection. A group of ulamas traveling to Afghanistan from Bangladesh, they spent 8 days in Afghanistan. My name is Said Hussein Anosh. I am from Afghanistan. I have lived and worked in Afghanistan. Before the fall of Republican regime, I worked with civil society and human rights network. And after the fall, together with other human rights defenders, we established HRD Plus or Human Rights Defenders Plus. With the return of Taliban in 2021 in Afghanistan, the very important legal institutions and legal documents were dissolved, and it was replaced by the very restrict interpretation of Taliban in the country. Even though the security situation has improved, but for many, the restrictions, the severe restrictions on the civil and political rights have made the life very difficult for the people of Afghanistan. The security challenges that were before, it was also caused by the Taliban. But now, since now they are in the power, it was also through the negotiation with the Americans, which Taliban negotiated with the Americans for more than a decade. And they also signed an agreement with the American that facilitated their return in the power in Afghanistan. The legal system that Taliban currently is running is based on one mufti and one judge and one clerk is sitting in the court. Many times it's just single decision. And we have documented the cases where the judge or the mufti has beaten the perpetrators to confess for their crime. In criminal cases, the defense lawyers are not allowed to represent the case, and this has been very serious hinder for access to justice in Afghanistan. Many times, the people have faced torture and ill treatment in detention cases. We have documented several cases of such. The civil society people, the human rights defenders, they face very harsh and brutal response by the Taliban, even if they write a simple social media post and post it on social medias or media. The legal system is at the moment replaced with the verbal and individual interpretations that's not followed in the whole country. The situation of women's rights in Afghanistan, it's one of the worst situations in the world, where many human rights defenders and women rights groups and even some UN officials have called it gender apartheid, which is based on the segregating women from the public and political life. If you look into the hijab has been brutally enforced. Just recently, there were cases where women were collectively detained in Shahranau, in Mazar, in Herat, and they were taken to the custodies. And in Kabul, they were taken to the Ministry of Vice and Virtue, and they had to pay the fine of 10,000 to 25,000 Afghani, and they were released based on that. The women travel has been facing huge problems. They are not alone. They cannot travel for more than 70 kilometers alone. They need a male chaperone. Even we have cases documented, the cases where they were not able to take taxis because the taxi drivers were instructed not to take except women as a passengers when they are alone. The women education above the sixth grade remain banned and with no prospect when it's going to be opened, which is unfortunately harming the social fabrics of Afghan society, the ban on women education. The women employment, the women have not been able to work with the government institutions or international organizations, except for some security spots where the Taliban have kept the women on, and also in the medical sectors and in the some level, in the education level, women generally are banned from entering into employment. Just recently, they were also banned to go to their offices in the UN compounds in Kabul and also in provinces. Women access to justice have been one of the very critical issues because when women are facing domestic violence, they need a male chaperone to accompany them to the government administration. And previously existed special courts for women, special prosecutors, Ministry of Women Affairs, Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, and the law to protect women from the domestic violence have all been dissolved at the moment. And as it was in the UN Special Procedure mandate holders, in 28 of them, they published a statement which says avenues for justice within Taliban controlled Afghanistan are virtually non existent. So, unfortunately, women access to justice has been severely restricted. And even in the cases where women have been facing rape or domestic violence, or these cases are severely underreported and it has not been reported to the government institutions, to the media, they just remain at their houses. Just recently, the Taliban internet shut down, which was for 3 days. They shut down the internet connection. The main reason for that was the vice and virtue reasons, which they were saying that the Afghanistan young people, young populations are using YouTube and TikTok for videos. But after 3 days, the whole system was brought down. The whole income system was brought down. The flights were cancelled to Taliban, to the Kabul and other provinces, and the whole currency exchange market was brought down. With all of that in mind, they restored the internet connection. They realized that internet connection is much more important than just the social media users. If you look into the broader picture of Afghanistan, the situation is unfortunately being implemented with force and with very extreme interpretation of Islam, which is not at all according to the general principles where we have learned from Islam, that's based on peace and tolerance and understanding and giving the space to the groups in vulnerable situations. Thanks to the cover story for making this video. It was based on the a group of ulamas traveling to Afghanistan from Bangladesh, and they spent 8 days in Afghanistan, which I read a reflection about their visit to Afghanistan. And in this reflection, it shows a very diverted picture of Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan and situation of human rights and women rights in Afghanistan as overall. I would encourage more trips to Afghanistan, but more informed trips to Afghanistan, which would be based on the reports available from the international organizations and also the UN agencies and also the Afghan media outlets, that's based on facts and incidents that has been happening in Afghanistan. I encourage more ulamas to negotiate and talk to Taliban and make them reverse their policies and not to follow very severe and restricted interpretation of Islam, which is not good for the people of Afghanistan, which is also not in the benefit of the broader image that's being created of Islam. Thank you so much.